G'day, AJ Mahar here, and I'm going to respond to another comment. There are just millions of them across the channel. I mean, I don't literally, but more than a million, I know that, but there's a lot. Anyway, this was left on a short that I did actually a while back. And the commenter says, been in grief and rumination and second guessing my decision to end with a woman probably who had untreated BPD. She wasn't the ghosting type, relatively stable, with clingy, needy, somewhat controlling tendencies. Interesting how much stability would be in there with, the clingy, needy, and the controlling tendencies. Sometimes critical and demanding. She demonstrated manipulating and even regressed to a 3-year-old once when I expressed I didn't think I should continue the relationship. So that's not, this person is wondering if this person has BPD. And then they go on to say, I didn't think I should continue the relationship. Told me later she had been close to the ultimate self-harm of not being here anymore. During the first months of our breakup talks. That's interesting. Breakup talks. Have you ever had breakup talks? Do breakup talks help anything? Because I think in BPD relationship breakups that BPD relationship breakup talks might more often lead to hoovers than not, but make things confusing, but they certainly will not yield anybody closure. So that's interesting. Where was I? Sorry. In the first months of the breakup talks. I don't hear that every day. Yes, I still wonder if I did the right thing because I still see the innocent and beautiful person within. And the commenter says that if I would do a video or a podcast on this, it would help and be wonderful. And they thank me for my work and that it's important and fills a gap. Well, that's always positive. It's helpful. And so let's just go back to this now. So this person is in grief and rumination and second guessing their decision. So can you relate to that? Because I think that the second guessing of a decision, especially when someone has broken up with the person with BPD, as opposed to when you're ghosted or discarded, and especially if it's sudden and you don't have any warnings. But I think no matter what the situation or breakup type, that often isn't the breakup of the breakup of, you know what I mean? That people often are second guessing themselves. And whether or not they're going to recycle or all those other iterations, can I just put it like that so I don't have to use all that verbiage all the time, or not, people are second guessing, people are doubting themselves. Because again, there's the codependence and how it works. There's also the false hope that is still being harbored. There's also the need to really get into a healing recovery process, which again, I remind you, I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you. And what happens there is people with codependency, even when they do get into a healing recovery process, the second guessing is not only what's happened to you and what the person with BPD has likely put you through and the many ways that they've hurt you and beyond, but it's also for people with codependency, it's exacerbated by second guessing yourself will be made worse and exacerbated by what happened and what you experienced with that person and from them with BPD and how wounding and hurtful that is. But it also comes about in a little bit of a natural way too, along with everything else, so multi-layered. For people with codependency, the second guessing because you don't really trust yourself emotionally as much as people may think they do. So you might not be like a person with BPD and you have zero self-trust, but you might really tend to doubt yourself somewhat anyway as somebody with codependency. And then also, I'm just trying to move something under my foot. Never mind, it's not working. So, also, the self doubt can be part of people's codependency, but that is made much worse by what happens in these relationships because you get confused often. You know, like, what's going on now? What happened? I don't understand. It's very painful when you're not being seen and heard, and that person with BPD is always going on, essentially or often, about something that has really to do with them being triggered in a way that's unconscious to them. They're not consciously aware of the triggers back to early childhood primal core wounding, and then how that can come into the here and now for people with BPD in a dissociative way, which sometimes does include age regression, as the commenter mentioned, and not always. But the important thing about this is, when they get this triggered, and when they go, then they start to experience a whole lot of emotions. Could be fear, could be terror, could be like all kinds of things. And then maybe they respond with rage. Definitely defenses and maladaptive coping kind of attempts, right? And then they'll often project out almost immediately all that's going on inside of them after they've been triggered, which is not your responsibility that they're triggered. They will be projecting this out onto the closest person near them, right, or partner, because they don't understand where it's coming from. So they really actually may believe that you somehow just caused them all of this tumult, pain, terror, fear, anger, whatever it is they're feeling, and they have no anchor for it, and they have no conscious awareness of what is it. And so it's scary for them, but that's just to explain it a bit, not to make an excuse for it, right? That they project it all onto you and blame you when it's not your responsibility or your fault. So this commenter is still in grief and rumination, and unfortunately, whether people are into the grief yet or not, because is your breakup actually a breakup yet, right? Remember that. And the rumination is sometimes gets in the way of grief, and sometimes people have both going on at the same time or vacillate between those feelings and many other feelings. So the second guessing, the decision to end with a woman who probably had untreated BPD. Well, can you relate to this? And maybe leave a comment, if you can. And oh yeah, remember to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, and all that YouTuber stuff I forget to say all the time. So anyway, if you can relate, many people are second guessing, as I said, and it has a lot to do with people with BPD and what you've been through, false hope, trying to avoid often and not always consciously. Codependents are often trying to avoid the pain and the loss and the grief, and it's really hard because a lot of times people, the way that they develop codependency in childhood might have been from a really adverse and horrific loss in childhood. It isn't always that, but it could be that. And so, like I said, people with codependency, or I'll just elaborate on, people with codependency might not realize the degree to which you don't really have a healthy relationship to them with yourself, and then you get in a relationship with borderline or narcissist, and then you lose more of yourself, you doubt yourself more, you trust yourself even less. But this lack of self-trust to varying degrees for people with codependency, and the second guessing, is very common and made worse by the BPD relationship and all that happens in it. But it's very, very common with codependency and from family of origin experience and what was wounding, that this is what's happening for people with codependency, maybe subconsciously or unconsciously. And so, and in this case of this commenter, they had to break up with the person with BPD because they were the more needy, clingy. There are people with BPD out there more needy, more clingy, a little bit more desperate not to be alone, may have a lot of ideation about not being here may really have a severe level of BPD in that regard, but that they are more clingy and needy, and they aren't going to be the ones that just split into value, ghost, and or discard. So, and then when somebody breaks up, as this commenter did, you see, whether you get ghosted or discarded, or they really, effectively are gone, and it is a breakup when that happens, because it doesn't happen all at once for everybody, then, the second guessing always comes. And that really is something whether you were broken up with, or ghosted, discarded, or you broke up with the person with BPD. And I think it's really important for me to just add here too that, these relationship breakups are so often not the final breakup, but when they are, or it becomes that even when people know they don't want to go back, as I've said in other videos too, you still may feel that longing, cognitive dissonance, rumination, all kinds of things, but missing them and not really being in a place yet of being anywhere near accepting that this breakup is actually a breakup and this is over. Because it might have included many recyclings before the point of getting to where the commenter got to in their own way. And so the breakup talks was the other point I think I wanted to address here. Because this person is still wondering if they did the right thing. Let me just say, they're still wondering if they did the right thing. Many people may resonate with that because they still see the innocent and beautiful person within. And, I'm not going to say that people with BPD don't have some aspects like that to themselves, but usually that are really outweighed by all that they're struggling with. And so, but they can have beautiful aspects or some positive things about them, right? So I can totally understand. But remember, if you're doubting, like this commenter, that you did the right thing, because you still have a sense of or feeling for that, how did the commenter put it? Innocent and beautiful person within. Just remember, that's when you need to write down on the other side of the ledger all that really happened to you that was really hurtful and painful or betraying, etc. Because the cognitive dissonance, getting stuck in the all good place of what was good, and then remembering that, you still see or saw in the person with BPD an innocent and beautiful person. Well, unfortunately, people with BPD don't have an innocent and beautiful person in there. But yes, they could have fragments of said, because they get wounded at such young ages more often than not. The highest percentage of people with BPD, it's really kind of heart-wrenching when people really care about that, even though you've been really hurt and wounded and then some by the person with BPD. So the other thing I was just going to say is, so it's kind of natural, actually, to doubt oneself with codependency and whether or not you see the innocent or positive part of what's more their potential than who they are right now, or not, that it is pretty common, and it is not only dependent upon how breakups happen or feelings after them, but also it's part of codependency as well. And so the only other point I wanted to touch on here was, where is it? Yes, that this person and their ex had months. So in the first months of their breakup talks, their ex age regressed to a 3-year-old who kind of didn't want to be here anymore. And so breakup talks, that's interesting, because have you ever heard of that? I don't think I have. And every time, because I've been working with clients for 33 years, and been online for almost 28 and talking about this often, of course, in many ways to help people. And because certainly it's not my favorite thing, I don't think about it otherwise, except for when I'm working, doing videos, podcasts, working with clients, etc. So breakup talks, I haven't really heard of those before, I don't think, or never put that way. So have you ever heard of that? Are you somebody that has, or you're having, or you're trying to have some breakup talks? I can understand what the commenter is probably alluding to there, but I wouldn't advocate that people really have breakup talks because it depends on the circumstance and situation. Not all people with BPD are the same, and the more clingy, the more needy, and you might have to make the choice to leave them is really a different experience. It's still very difficult with a lot of the same common core issues that people have in BPD relationship breakup, but maybe not as pretty painful, but maybe just a little less so hard to measure or compare than when somebody is suddenly ghosted or discarded. And ghosted and maybe not sure if it's over or not. So, BPD relationship breakup talks, I would think not a very good idea in like 95% of BPD relationship breakups, and that you need to go no contact, and unless there's children involved, and then it's low contact, and it's a whole lot of other moving, complicated pieces of what's going to happen there and how to take care of children. It's very difficult. But I think, yeah, BPD relationship talks, breakup talks, I think are very uncommon. What do you think? Anyway, I hope this was helpful. And please, let me just reiterate quickly that yes, people with codependency have issues of self-trust. May lack self-trust, not totally, but lack self-trust, lacking self-esteem, lacking self-worth, lacking confidence, second-guessing oneself a lot of the time, if not more often than not. So this is part of codependency as well, and it can be made worse by what you're going through in a breakup or on and off or whatever the situation is with a person with BPD, because how are you supposed to trust your decisions when you're so hurt, wounded, and it's triggered maybe more of this codependency and things that you need to get into a healing recovery process to work on and understand and know more about to really be able to heal why you have codependency. And let me just say again and remind people, codependency is not a blame word. You're not responsible for anything that the person with BPD or a narcissist does to you, how they hurt you, wound you, etc., really negatively impact you and beyond. But people need to remember that maybe that's why it's even more important to get into working with someone. And again, I'm out here to help you if I resonate with you, to work with you if I resonate with you, because the self-doubt, the lack of self-trust, these are things that people really need to talk about, as well as why they're feeling that way. And often, like when I work with clients, at one point or another, not always in the beginning, people really need to tell me, and sometimes pieces of more than once or many times, all that they really went through with the person with BPD in their life, because there are always going to be individual iterations of different kinds of things that impact people differently after a BPD relationship breakup because of the individuality of all these people with BPD, though they share core common patterns. And the last thing here is, even with people who show all these patterns of BPD, if you're doubting yourself, you need to believe what you're experiencing. Believe how much pain you're in. Know what you've been through. Because there's many people out there that are showing all of these core patterns of BPD that aren't diagnosed, and you don't know for sure if they have BPD. But that's not as important as that you're recognizing the patterns, and then you're in pain, and whatever the situation is, a breakup or being ghosted, discarded, on, off, etc., you need to know that that is a pattern of an undiagnosed person. But they may well, if they ever got assessed, be diagnosed with BPD. And then if you know that someone's diagnosed, people still have all kinds of self-doubt when you're trying to make this change, whether you break up with the person with BPD, they ghost or discard you, but you're trying to get your head around, what do I need now? Because I still feel like I just want to go back to everything, and like somehow this is my fault, and all of those codependent machinations of ruminations of self-doubt, of blaming oneself at the same time while abandoning oneself. So I hope that was helpful, and as always, take care.